Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're mapping out what is honestly one of the most exciting and kind of overlooked international trade corridors in the world right now. Today, we're exploring the top 10 export products from Bangladesh to Brazil and Brazil to Bangladesh. Think of this as your complete expert guide for exporters, importers, manufacturers, and investors who are looking to understand the immense, untapped economic opportunity between these two highly synergistic nations. Here's exactly what we're covering today. First, we'll look at why this is a perfect economic match. Then, we'll dive into what Brazil needs today and flip that to see what Bangladesh needs today. After that, we'll walk through the actual international trade playbook. And finally, we'll talk about your bridge to success. So, let's get started. All right, Section 1, a perfect economic match. The core idea here is incredibly simple, but man, is it powerful. It's like two giant puzzle pieces snapping together perfectly. On one side, we have Bangladesh. They've totally transformed into one of Asia's fastest-growing manufacturing economies. We're talking a young workforce, super modern production facilities, and highly competitive value-added manufacturing. Then, on the exact opposite side of the globe, you have Brazil, the largest economy in Latin America, completely defined by its vast agricultural resources, advanced agribusiness, and abundant industrial minerals. The beauty here is that they don't compete with each other. They perfectly complement each other. Bangladesh's manufacturing prowess just beautifully matches Brazil's agricultural dominance, creating this incredibly lucrative synergy. To really grasp the sheer scale of this opportunity, you just have to look at the numbers. 210 million. That is Brazil's massive consumer population. It represents one of the biggest retail markets in all of Latin America. And with a rapidly expanding middle class, there is just this vast, continuous demand for affordable, high-quality manufactured goods. Now, contrast that with this figure, 170 million. That's the population of Bangladesh. That highlights an unbelievable scale of domestic need. When you have a population of that size, combined with an economy that is industrializing at breakneck speed, you require colossal amounts of raw materials, agricultural commodities, and food products, literally just to fuel your booming manufacturing engines and feed your people. Moving right along to Section 2, what Brazil needs today. Let's focus on what we can call the westbound arc. Basically, what is Bangladesh making that Brazil is buying? These are the top, highly actionable product categories. First up, ready-made garments, an area where Bangladesh is an undisputed global leader. But it goes way beyond just clothes. We're also looking at home textiles, pharmaceuticals, high-end leather goods, jute products, ceramics, frozen seafood, and even plastics and light engineering goods. Because Bangladesh operates at strict international quality standards while keeping labor costs highly competitive, these specific categories just perfectly meet the demands of Brazilian wholesalers, hospitals, hotels, and everyday retail consumers. Now, what's really fascinating here is a super specific, highly relevant opportunity, jute. It's often referred to as the golden fiber, and Bangladesh is famous for it. So why does Brazil care? Well, because Brazil is aggressively shifting towards sustainable business practices and biodegradable packaging right now. Supermarkets and massive agricultural companies over there are actively hunting for ways to ditch single-use plastics. Bangladesh's eco-friendly jute is just perfectly positioned to capitalize on that massive green shift. Okay, Section 3, what Bangladesh needs today. Now, we're going to pivot to the eastbound arc. What's coming back from Brazil? The key export categories to Bangladesh include soybeans, cotton, sugar, coffee, maize and animal feed, meat and processed food, and wood pulp. But here's the absolutely crucial takeaway. For Bangladesh, these aren't just consumer items sitting on a grocery store shelf. These are vital industrial inputs. They are the actual raw materials needed to keep Bangladesh's textile mill spinning, its food processors running, and its huge livestock producers functioning. You can really see this dynamic clearly when you look at what we'll call the twin engines, cotton and soy. Bangladesh is an absolute giant in global garment manufacturing, right? But here's the catch. It produces very little of its own domestic cotton, so it relies heavily on millions of bales of high-quality Brazilian cotton to supply its spinning mills. Meanwhile, Brazil, as a top global soybean exporter, provides the critical soy that literally fuels Bangladesh's massive edible oil refineries, not to mention its booming poultry and aquaculture feed sectors. It's just incredible to see how one economy is quite literally feeding the other's growth. Which brings us to Section 4, the International Trade Playbook. So, we've got the economic theory and the products down, but how do you actually execute these trades safely and, profitably? The key is that successful trade doesn't start with just randomly finding a buyer. It demands a highly structured approach. Step one is deep market research. You have to understand local regulations and what consumers actually want before you spend a dime. Step two is identifying reliable partners through serious commercial due diligence. Step three means locking down your legal registrations and airtight contracts. And finally, step four is managing customs, international logistics, and securing your payments. Looking at the regulatory side of things, specifically if you're setting up in Bangladesh, operating legally means getting a few very specific documents sorted out. You'll need a trade license, a business identification number, or BIN, a tax identification number, TIN, and most importantly, an export or import registration certificate. Now, I know that sounds like a whole lot of paperwork, but having this proper documentation is your ultimate safeguard. Having these exact certificates ready to go is the only way to prevent those costly customs delays and massive logistical nightmares down the road. And of course, when it comes to actually getting paid, international fraud is a completely valid fear. But this is where a letter of credit, or an LC, comes in as a brilliant, highly secure payment mechanism. Basically, the importer's bank steps in and guarantees that the exporter will get paid, but only once they present verified, compliant shipping documents proving the goods were actually put on the ship. It completely removes the need for blind trust and replaces it with rock-solid institutional verification. Alongside payment, clearly defining your Incoterms in any international contract is absolutely essential. Whether you go with FOB, which stands for Free On Board, or CIF, which is Cost, Insurance, and Freight, these are internationally accepted rules. They define exactly who pays for the transport, who pays for the insurance, and at what precise moment the risk transfers from the seller to the buyer. Look, whether you're using economical sea freight or urgent air freight, defining your Incoterms is non-negotiable if you want to protect yourself. And finally, Section 5, your bridge to success. Trying to navigate a brand new market thousands of miles away with a totally different language and business culture can feel pretty daunting, but you don't have to wing it. Enter the Brazil-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or the BBCICI. They are basically the ultimate institutional bridge. They take these intimidating trade barriers and transform them into practical business partnerships. Instead of relying on some risky internet searches to find partners, the BBCICI provides verified B2B matchmaking, critical market intelligence, and advocacy. They literally connect qualified exporters directly with reliable importers, taking the friction out of the whole shebang. And what's great is they facilitate all of this through real-world, tangible events. A perfect example is the upcoming Made in Bangladesh Expo 2025, taking place right on the ground in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is an incredible opportunity organized by the Chamber for direct face-to-face networking, cultural exchange, and actually showcasing products to real decision-makers. It's the place where all this economic theory we've been talking about turns into signed contracts. Our source material leaves us with this really profound thought. Successful international trade begins much earlier with selecting the right product and relies on relationships built on mutual trust and long-term commitment. We've just seen how beautifully aligned the manufacturing power of Bangladesh is with the agricultural might of Brazil. The roadmap is clear, the products are there, and the institutional support is ready and waiting. So the only question left for you is, how will your business leverage this perfect economic match to secure its future growth? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and I will see you next time.